I never thought I'd be the guy at war with an HOA, but here we are. It all started when Patricia Henderson, or Pat, as she insisted everyone call her, moved in next door. She didn't just join the HOA, she became it. Patricia was the kind of woman who thrived on control. If she could find a reason to tell you what to do, she would. I had no issues with the HOA when I bought my house 3 years ago. It was a quiet suburb with neatly trimmed lawns, and most people minded their business. The HOA fees were reasonable, covering things like exterior maintenance, lawn care, and snow removal. Seemed fair. Then Patricia arrived, and suddenly everything became an issue. The color of my mailbox? Too bold. The bird feeder in my backyard? Attracting undesirable wildlife. My trash cans being outside for more than 30 minutes after collection. Violation notice. Every week, a new complaint. Every week, a new printed notice on my door. But I kept my cool. I played nice, until one rainy Tuesday morning, when she crossed the line. I was in the middle of an important video call when I heard it. Beep, beep, beep. Someone was laying on their car horn in my driveway. After a solid 5 minutes of this nonsense, I finally excused myself from the meeting and went outside with my umbrella. There she was, Patricia, parked under my carport, sitting in her spotless white Lexus, tapping her freshly manicured nails against the steering wheel like she had somewhere more important to be. She rolled down her window just a crack so the rain wouldn't hit her. Patricia. Marcus, honey, you need to move your car. I've been waiting out here and I'm getting wet. I blinked. Wait. What? Me. I'm sorry? Patricia. Your carport was empty, so I assumed it was fine for me to use it. The street is flooded and I can't risk water damage to my Lexus. I turned and looked. Yup. The street was a little wet, but hardly a flood zone. Me. Patricia, this is my property. You can't just park here without asking. Her smile tightened. Patricia. Well, I'm asking now. Just move your car out of the garage so I can pull in there instead. Wait. What? She didn't just want the carport. She wanted me to move my own car out of my own garage so she could use it instead. The audacity was stunning. Me. No, Patricia. You need to leave. Her eyes narrowed. Patricia. You're being very unreasonable. The HOA should have emergency parking provisions for weather-related issues. I'll bring this up at the next meeting. And with that, she threw her car into reverse and splashed muddy water all over my shoes and pants as she sped off. By that evening, I had an email from the HOA with the subject, Proposed Amendment, Emergency Parking Accommodations. Guess who was listed as the contact person? Patricia. I thought she had gotten the message, but I was so wrong. The next weekend, I came home from grocery shopping to find Patricia's Lexus parked in my garage. Not my carport, my actual garage. The garage door was open, her car was inside, and Patricia, nowhere to be seen. I just sat in my car for a minute trying to process what I was seeing. How did she even get in? Then it hit me. During a previous HOA inspection, she had asked for temporary access to check some wiring. I'd given her the keypad code, never thinking she'd abuse it. On the door leading into my house, I found a handwritten note taped up neatly. Marcus, had to attend an emergency board meeting. My driveway is being resealed today, and I couldn't park on the street because of construction. Used your garage since you weren't home. Thanks for understanding. Pat. She acted like this was normal, like we had some sort of prearranged agreement, like I had given her permission. I closed the garage door behind me, walked inside, and did the only logical thing. I changed the garage keypad code. Then, just to be extra safe, I disabled the manual override. And then I sent Patricia a very simple text. Me. I see you parked in my garage without permission. The code has been changed. Please contact me when you return so we can discuss this violation of privacy. I settled into my couch with a fresh cup of coffee and waited. 3 hours later, Patricia, Marcus, I need to get my car. Please open the garage. I waited 15 minutes before replying. Me. I'm in a meeting. I'll be free in an hour. 10 minutes later, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Patricia was at my front door, hammering the bell like a madwoman. I checked the security cameras. Yep, she was full Karen mode, pacing, talking angrily on the phone, pressing the doorbell repeatedly. I took my sweet, sweet time. After about 30 minutes, I finally opened the door. Patricia. This is completely unacceptable. Me. Oh, I agree. Entering my garage without permission. Completely unacceptable. Her face turned bright red. Patricia. I have an important appointment. You are holding my car hostage. Me. No, you are trespassing. If anyone should be calling the police, it's me. Patricia. It was an emergency. Me. Oh, so you couldn't call an Uber? Couldn't park legally? Didn't think to ask me first? She crossed her arms, seething. Patricia. This is ridiculous. Neighbors help each other. Me. Help is something you ask for, Patricia. Not something you take. I stared at her, arms folded. Me. So, do you acknowledge that what you did was inappropriate? She looked like she might explode, but finally she hissed through clenched teeth. Patricia. Fine. I should have asked. Me. Great. Now delete the old code from your phone. She begrudgingly pulled out her phone and deleted something. Probably just pretending. But it didn't matter. The code was already changed. I tapped my phone. The garage door opened. Patricia stormed inside, got in her car, and sped off, tires screeching. I watched her drive away, shaking my head. If she thought this was over, she was very, very wrong. If Patricia thought she could bully her way into using my property like her own personal parking spot, she was in for a rude awakening. After I locked her out of my garage, I figured she would take the hint. No more trespassing, no more entitlement. But, oh, she did not. The very next morning, I woke up to find something new taped to my front door. Notice of violation. Home Office non-compliance. Wait, what? I read the letter twice, then a third time. Apparently, the HOA was now claiming that my home office setup was unauthorized and violated community standards. Never mind the fact that the previous owners had received full permits. Never mind the fact that I'd been using my home office for 3 years with no issues. This was retaliation. Pure and simple. Guess whose name was at the bottom of the complaint? Patricia Henderson, HOA President. I knew Patricia was fuming over the garage incident, but I didn't think she'd try weaponizing the HOA against me. I wasn't about to let her get away with this. So I called up my lawyer friend, explained the situation, and she confirmed what I already suspected. Lawyer. They can't enforce a new restriction on a properly permitted conversion that was already approved. This is textbook selective enforcement. She helped me draft a beautiful letter pointing out that my home office was approved under previous HOA leadership. The HOA had never enforced this rule against any other home in the neighborhood. Retaliatory enforcement could be considered harassment. We CC'd the entire HOA board, not just Patricia, and we subtly hinted that legal action was a very real option. I sent the letter that afternoon. The next morning, the violation mysteriously disappeared from my HOA portal. But Patricia, she wasn't done yet. Oh no. That same day, something worse happened. That evening, I was grabbing my mail when I heard the unmistakable sound of a car engine inside my garage. I froze. Number freaking. I pulled out my phone and checked the security cameras, and there it was. Patricia's Lexus, parked, in my garage, again. Except this time, she hadn't left a note. She hadn't even pretended to ask. She had just assumed my property was available for her use. I watched on the camera as she got out of the car, adjusted her coat, and casually strolled down the street, presumably to another HOA meeting. This was it. I was done playing nice. I walked straight to the hardware store. An hour later, I came home with a heavy-duty padlock, a steel hasp, and I installed them inside my garage door. This was the final level of security. Even if she had the old code, even if she tried the manual override, the garage would not open from the outside. I locked it up, poured myself a cup of tea, and waited. 2 hours later, Patricia returned. I watched on the security cameras as she confidently walked up to the garage keypad and entered her code. Nothing. She tried again. Still nothing. She pulled out her phone, checking to see if she had the right code. After a few more failed attempts, she finally marched up to my front door and rang the bell. Ding-dong, ding-dong, ding-dong. I took my sweet time. After 30 seconds, I casually opened the door. Me. Patricia, what can I do for you? Her smile was strained. Patricia, the garage door isn't working. I need to get my car. Me. Your car? In my garage? Again? After we just had this conversation? She blinked. Patricia. Well, the door was open when I arrived, and I assumed it was fine. Me. Patricia, that is not how private property works. Her fake smile evaporated. Patricia, just open the garage. The board meeting ran long, and I need to get home. I folded my arms. Me. Unfortunately, I've installed a manual lock on the inside. Security purposes, you understand. Her jaw dropped. Patricia, you locked my car in your garage? That's illegal. Me. No, Patricia. Securing my own property after repeated trespassing is not illegal. She whipped out her phone. Patricia, I'm calling the police. Me. Go ahead. I have security footage of you entering my garage without permission. I'd love to show the cops. She stared at me, phone in hand. Then, she lowered it. Patricia, this isn't over. Me. Oh, I agree. I'll be unlocking the garage at exactly 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Feel free to come back then. She fumed, then stormed off down the street, probably to call someone for a ride. I leaned against my door frame, sipping my tea. This was far from over. The next morning, I woke up early, stretched, and brewed myself a cup of coffee. At 8:59 a.m., I took a deep breath and walked to the garage. Right on cue, Patricia arrived. This time, she wasn't alone. Standing beside her were two other people I recognized from the HOA board. Howard Johnson, an older gentleman who actually seemed reasonable, and Diane Miller, a newer board member who had a reputation for being fair. Patricia had clearly brought reinforcements. She was standing there with her arms crossed, her face red with rage. Patricia, Marcus, we need to have a discussion about your unacceptable behavior. I smirked. Me. Oh, you mean securing my private property after repeated unauthorized use? Diane cleared her throat, looking awkward. Diane. Patricia told us you agreed to let her park here temporarily, and then you maliciously locked her car inside. I couldn't help but laugh. Me. Oh, really? So she told you that I have security camera footage of her parking in my garage without permission. Twice? Diane and Howard exchanged glances. Howard turned to Patricia. Howard. Patricia, you parked in his garage without permission? Patricia, waving dismissively. It was an emergency situation. He's just blowing it out of proportion. Me. An emergency? Funny, because she had time to stroll away for an HOA meeting without a care in the world. I pulled out my phone and played the footage. There it was, clear as day. Patricia parking in my garage, casually walking away and not even leaving a note this time. Diane's expression darkened. Diane. Patricia, this is trespassing. Howard. And it looks like you misrepresented the situation to us. Patricia's face twitched. Patricia, this is ridiculous. He's being vindictive. Me. Actually, I think you're the one being vindictive. First, you tried to force me to let you park in my carport. When that failed, you illegally used my garage. Then, when I locked it, you ran to the HOA and tried to make up a rule against my home office. Tell me again, who's being vindictive? Patricia looked like she was about to combust. Howard: Marcus, if you could please open the garage so Patricia can retrieve her vehicle. I grinned. Me. Of course. I was going to unlock it at exactly 9 a.m. anyway. I hit the button on my phone, and the garage door slowly lifted. Patricia stormed inside, yanked her car door open, and peeled out of my driveway so fast that she nearly hit Diane. She was humiliated, but I wasn't done yet. That afternoon, I arrived home to find yet another official-looking envelope in my mailbox. I opened it. Notice of Emergency HOA Meeting. Agenda: Parking violations and property use restrictions. Patricia's signature was at the bottom. Oh, so she wanted one last shot at ruining me. I decided I was going to attend that meeting, and I wasn't going alone. The next evening, I walked into the community center with my lawyer. Patricia's face paled when she saw us. She had clearly expected me to just roll over and accept whatever nonsense she was planning to pull. The meeting started, and Patricia stood up in front of everyone. Patricia: Residents, we have a serious issue in our community. Some homeowners are deliberately obstructing neighborhood cooperation and ignoring HOA policies. I leaned back in my chair, waiting. Patricia: Certain individuals, who I won't name, are going against the values of Oak Ridge Estates by refusing to follow community parking regulations and creating a hostile environment. The moment she finished speaking, I stood up. Me: I'd like to respond to that. Patricia looked like she'd just swallowed a lemon. Me: It's interesting that Patricia is talking about community values when she has personally violated the HOA's own rules multiple times. I pulled out my phone and played the footage for the entire room. Patricia parking in my garage without permission. Patricia trying to use my carport. Patricia ignoring my requests to leave my property alone. The room was dead silent. Then Diane stood up. Diane: Patricia, you told us Marcus had agreed to let you use his garage. This footage proves otherwise. Howard cleared his throat. Howard: Furthermore, you used HOA resources to file a false violation against his home office, which had already been approved. This is clearly a personal vendetta. People in the audience started whispering. Then a neighbor I barely knew raised his hand. Neighbor: Actually, Patricia once tried to fine me for leaving my garden hose out for 30 minutes. This kind of harassment has been going on for years. Another neighbor stood up. Neighbor number 2. She sent me a violation notice for using the wrong shade of beige on my front door. More and more neighbors started coming forward. Suddenly, the meeting wasn't about me. It was about Patricia's years of nonsense. She was completely cornered. Patricia stood there looking like she wanted to melt into the floor. Howard sighed. Howard: Patricia, we'll be reviewing your position as HOA president at the next board meeting. Translation: she was about to get kicked off the board. And just like that, the entire room turned against her. Her little reign of terror was over. 2 weeks later, I was pulling out of my driveway when I saw it. A for sale sign in Patricia's yard. She was moving. I stopped my car, rolled down my window, and gave her a little wave. Me: Hey Patricia, need help finding a place with a garage that'll actually let you park? She glared at me. Then she got into her Lexus and drove off. For the final time. A month later, Howard, now the new HOA president, organized a community BBQ. We all gathered in the park, laughing and sharing stories. People kept coming up to me, shaking my hand. Neighbor: You took her down, man. We all owe you. And honestly, it felt pretty damn good. No more petty violations, no more crazy HOA nonsense. Just a peaceful neighborhood. And best of all, my garage, my rules, forever.